Thank you, Gisele. Not every mother has all the equipment required for the job at all times, like cash. Lots and lots and lots of cash. Mothers are nodding their heads. And not every mother has the support to get the job done. But mothers are resourceful. We find out who knows and who has. Nearly 70 years ago, Irene Belmore found herself without a husband. It seems he left after the first daughter was born. Irene had no education, very little money. She was left to support 2 little girls. There was no other family, and in those days, there wasn't any daycare down the street. So Irene went to work doing what she knew best, waiting tables. One winter evening when she came home, she found that the kitchen curtains were burned. It seemed that her oldest daughter had lit the oil lamps so the girls would have some light at the table to do their homework, but the flame had been set a little too high. Fortunately, the girls were safe, but Irene was afraid that she wouldn't be so lucky next time. She placed her 2 precious girls in the St. Vincent de Paul orphanage, where they were raised by nuns. As often as she was able, she visited her daughters on weekends. Of course, Irene thought of the orphanage as an option, the only one. She'd been raised in an orphanage on the East Coast herself. Her husband had grown up in an orphanage. And it wasn't until Irene passed away, and the older daughter was almost 50 years old, that she was able to tell her own daughter the story. You see, that 50-year-old daughter was my mother. She didn't want to tell the story of her own mother, Irene, because somehow she felt like she needed to protect her mother from judgment. And she thought she was protecting me, too, from the discovery of our legacy. 3 of my 4 grandparents were raised in orphanages, and somehow my mom learned how to be a mom. She learned the ferocity of a mother lion. She was determined. She would not give up. She would not run away, and nobody else was going to run away on her either. She had and has an amazing will. Above all else, my mom's on a spiritual journey of strength and courage, and she is a role model of that. My mom started her membership in Mother to Mother Society at age 20, and she has not turned in her membership card yet. I know she's thought about it. God blesses her. Now I'm in the society by adoption. My daughter came from an orphanage on the other side of the world. Now I, as do other mothers, know about protection, about power, about powerlessness, and about not giving up. How does one learn to be a mother when there's no mother around to teach? And yet there is an inner mother, a nurturer, a cheerleader and a coach, an energizer bunny and laundress and genius within that we can only call God. God in her most divine feminine form. Some are able to listen and seek guidance, and some don't have the tools or the outer support to listen, like Irene. For the mothers who didn't have it, who didn't know how, who gave us the best that they had, who didn't know they had something to give, we send our blessings today. Some mothers, as I said earlier, join at puberty, really early in the society. Some join at menopause. That was me. Some join with intention, and some by what we call an accident. Our next society member comes from a rich legacy and has carried it forward to teach her own young women. She lives with intention in all that she does. And I would like for you to welcome Maria Davidson to the platform now.
Oh, this is the tallest I've been my whole life, I think. Feels good. Good morning to all of you. When Reverend Sherry asked me to speak today on Mother's Day, I began to remember Mother's Day breakfasts made by small hands, hugs around my knees, and small, smiling faces looking up at me. And I remember that it was not my first choice to be mom when I got married. As the oldest of 4 children, I had my mother's children while she worked, and I was not sure I wanted children of my own. However, I am so glad I have my girls. It has been, and still is, an experience that has taught me the power of something bigger than myself. I believe that motherhood, faith, and spirituality are very much entwined. And as I've grown as a mom, my faith has grown. The biggest faith-motherhood connection is the very fact that becoming a mother is an enormous leap of faith. Motherhood, by whatever path, by giving birth, by adoption, by fostering a child, by being an auntie, a godmother, a good friend, a big brother or sister or step-sibling who steps in when mom's not there, is a test of faith. We have no tangible path, no instruction manual to follow. There is no guidebook to motherhood. A mom just does what she can by instinct and by the examples she's experienced. She just tries to do her best. Our faith, by whatever path we take, like motherhood, has no lit pathway or guidebook. We all find our way to God differently. Motherhood and faith are learned by the examples in our lives. And as a child, I had marvelous examples of women and mothers who had great faith. My Greek grandmother, Yaya, raised 4 children alone in Cleveland. Her husband dying when the fourth child was 40 days old, and she a recent immigrant to America. She didn't speak English very well, but she supported her 4 children by running a delicatessen and having a strong Greek Orthodox faith. And then there's my own mom, Viola, who laughed and cried while she raised her 4 children and her foster children with the confidence and strength, even if she wasn't able to replace ruined new shoes or pay all the bills. But she firmly believed in God and that we, her kids, could do anything. She believed in dreams, and she believed that everyone had faith in achieving them. And she often did what was impossible to us kids. These women had faith in themselves, in their God, faith in their families. They looked at their lives and they felt grateful. And I know I was learning about faith as I looked up into my own mother's laughing brown eyes or sat on my Yaya's soft lap and felt her stroke my hair. Becoming a mother is a journey. I didn't want to be a mom when everyone thought I was ready in my 20s. I had been my mother's little helper for 3 younger siblings, and I just wasn't ready. My mother was the original working mom, and I started babysitting and making dinner when I was about 11. I was the oldest girl in a blue-collar neighborhood in Cleveland filled with big Catholic families, and yes, I mothered all of them. I started working at 16, and having helped my mom for so many years, I was fairly mature, and I was always mothering my friends, too. And with all this mothering, I just didn't want the responsibility of becoming a mom. And being responsible for Scott and I was enough, and freeing somehow when we moved out west. And it wasn't until I was married about 8 years that we decided to become parents. And I felt I was ready to love someone and something more than just the 2 of us. And then I held my new baby daughter in my arms. And I realized that being a mom was a much bigger job than I thought it was going to be. I needed to be ready. I needed to be more than myself. She was in my arms. I had to find something. My journey with faith was similar, being so responsible and mature in my younger years. And my exposure to faith and church was very eclectic. My mother was Greek Orthodox, my father was Catholic, and my mother put us in a Baptist Sunday school.